Hello and welcome to this week's Personal Online Tutor, your place for Photoshop and other graphic program tutorials on the web. This week we're continuing with our creating of a space fantasy scene, and this is part 2. So if you haven't done part 1, please see the previous podcast so that you can get up to speed. This includes creating the star field and creating a planet. So we've created our planet, we've created our nebula. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to import a 3D model of a spaceship, and we're going to place it into our scene and reposition it. So the first thing you need to do is you need to have an actual 3D model. You can use 3D models that have been made in Maya, 3D Studio Max, Cinema 4D, Blender. But you need some sort of, you'll need some sort of 3D program that has generated a model of some form. For this exercise, I've actually given you a model. If you go to the show notes, you can find out where to download the files for this tutorial. And we're using a model made by a friend of mine named Pasonic, and there's a link to his website so you can see more of his models that he's created. We're going to import a fighter spaceship. So we're going to go to the 3D menu here, and we're going to go to 3D, New Layer from 3D File, and we're going to go and I'm going to open up the file. In this case, it's called fighter1.3ds, which is the 3D Studio Max file. I'm going to hit OK, and there we go. There's my file. And so once your 3D model is inside of Photoshop, you can actually move it around. So we have tools here within our toolbar that allow us to rotate and pan and move our item around. So I'm just going to grab the 3D orbit tool, and you can see how I can use it to sort of rotate my object. You'll also see once you use any of these tools that you're starting to get this little placer tool. So there's actually 3 parts of this tool. The arrows on the end of this tool allow me to physically reposition the placements. I can move it in the 3 different directions, X, Y, and Z direction. These little boxes basically allow me to scale. And you can tell that something is highlighted because it turns yellow. So I can scale it in the Y direction, X direction, or the Z direction. And there's also a rotation tool as well. So if you put your cursor over this sort of rounded arc, it turns into a circle, and you can see the different rotation directions. You can rotate in the X direction, Y direction, or Z direction. We also have things like 3D zoom, which let you basically reposition your object closer or farther away to the camera. I'm going to have mine be a little bit closer. Roll lets you roll in the X, rotate in the X direction. 3D pan lets you sort of reposition by using your mouse. So I'm going to rotate my object, and I'm going to have it kind of looking like it's blasting off from this planet. So I've positioned my 3D fighter the way that I want. What we're going to do now is we're going to add some exhaust coming out of the back of our spaceship. So I'm going to create a new document, file, new, 800 by 800 is fine. And I'm going to fill this with black. And we're going going to go to Filter, Render, Lens Flare, and I'm going to place the lens flare. I'm going to place the lens flare at the center of my object here, and you can play around with brightness, but it doesn't. You don't want it too bright. You don't want it too soft. So I get this lens flare. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the marquee tool. I'm going to go to single row marquee tool. We're going to click and put it right in the center of our lens flare. Then what we're going to do is use Command T or go to Free Transformed, and then take the transform in the X and Y direction on the edges and pull them. And basically what I get is kind of this sci-fi sort of blast kind of effect. So once we're done, I'm going to hit Enter to save our transformation. I'm going to go to Select All or Command or Apple A or Control A. Copy it, Control C, Apple C, Command C. Bring it into my space scene. So there's my laser blast. I'm going to shrink it just by using the retransform tools. And then what I'm going to do, so it doesn't, I need to place this so it looks like it's going to match up with my space fighter. I'm actually going to put this layer below my space fighter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, use the Distort option, and I'm going to, by adding Distort, you get little handles, kind of like the free transform, but you can pull them really in any direction. So what I'm going to do is move my handles around and I'm distorting this so that it looks like my sort of laser beam is coming off the back of the tail end of the engine and going back into space. And part of creating that illusion is having this the bottom be longer and this be shorter, so it creates this sort of fake sense of perspective. And I'm tilting in this direction because that's the direction it would most likely go in if it actually was a realistic scene, so for my compositing effect. So that looks pretty good. Pull it over just a little bit. I'm going to hit OK.